children was shot by a man in the left arm and was able to drive the children to the hospital.
Calm down, man. Who shot
Danny
you?
was shot in the back. 7-year-old Cheryl was shot twice from behind and died on the way to the hospital.
We live in a society, and tired meme aside, this is something that we can all understand on some intrinsic level. Put simply, a society is the totality of individuals who keep some form of relation with each other. We may share common cultural traits that help to bind us together and to keep a cohesive balance across even larger distances. Humans have always looked to build bonds with other humans and to keep those bonds strong to provide a benefit to those sharing that bond. This might be in the form of shelter from the elements, food production, protections from dangers, the unification of a spoken and written language, and so on. Nations and cultures have formed out of just these sorts of bonds. But what happens when a member of a society has no desire to be a part or to share any concern for the people within a group? An individual with no interest in the thoughts, feelings, or connections of others, and, in turn, with no regard for human life. Well, in the case of Yang Xinhai, we have an example. Yang Xinhai was born on July 29th of 1968 in the small county in the southern end of the Henan province of China. Yang grew up as the youngest of 4 children to a family that was considered to be one of the poorest in the entire village. But even with this being the case, it's said that Yang was an incredibly clever child, albeit one that was quite introverted. We know that in 1985, at the age of 17, Yang dropped out of school entirely and made the decision not to return home. It is unknown what his reasoning was for this, but we know from accounts that Yang decided to instead travel across China, picking up odd jobs as a laborer along the way. But it wouldn't be long before society would come calling. You see, while Yang cared little for others, others cared very much about the actions that he took during his travels. In 1988, only 2 years after leaving home, Yang would be sentenced to a labor camp after a conviction for theft. He would later be sent back after another conviction for theft happened in another town. But it wasn't until 1996 where Yang would face serious time after he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for the attempted rape of a woman. Yang would only serve some 3 years of a 5-year sentence, being released sometime in 1999 for that crime. And it was after this stint in prison when Yang would decide to embark on his serial killing spree. A spree that would see him become the most prolific serial killer in China since its modern inception in 1949. After his eventual arrest for the crimes, Yang would openly confess to the murders of 65 people, 23 of those instances being rape, and a number of attacks that left the victim with serious or severe injuries. His arrest in 2003 having nothing to do with the murders themselves. Instead, Yang was picked up after police saw him acting suspiciously during a routine inspection of the various entertainment venues in the local area. After taking him into custody, police questioned him about his suspicious behavior, and they would quickly come to find out that Yang was already wanted for murder in 4 different provinces. It was then when Yang would make his confession, having little regard for his victims, famously stating, "When I killed people, I had a desire. This inspired me to kill more. I don't care whether they deserve to live or not. It is none of my concern. I have no desire to be part of society. Society is not my concern." Yang told police that he killed at night. He noted that he would enter the homes of his victims and kill all the occupants inside if possible. His targets were mostly farmers, and Yang would use whatever he could find to take their lives, including axes, shovels, and even hammers. Each time he carried out a new attack, he would take the time to wear new clothes and shoes larger than what he normally would wear. In one particular case, Yang entered a home, killed the father of the house and a 6-year-old girl with a shovel, before proceeding to sexually assault a pregnant woman. She would survive the attack, but be left with serious head injuries as a result. Police would use DNA found at several crime scenes to zero in on Yang at a number of murders and attacks before his eventual capture. Police would also later come to the grim realization that Yang had managed to contract the AIDS virus from one of his victims, and possibly spreading it to others. In early 2004, Yang would be found guilty of 67 total murders alongside 23 rapes, and he would be sentenced to death. It is believed at the time of his sentencing, Yang had carried out the longest killing spree in the country's history. As for his motives, little is truly known even today. Several reports early on after his arrest noted that a potential motive for the rampage was Yang getting revenge against society because of a bad breakup. Local papers suggested that Yang's girlfriend had broken up with him after uncovering his past convictions. Later accounts would state that Yang's motive came down to simply enjoying the acts that he committed, something that can easily be taken away from Yang's own words, even if he never formally listed a motive. Yang Xinhai would be executed by firing squad on February 14th of 2004. The villages and provinces that he terrorized for 3 long years, finally able to close their doors and sleep easy once again. Thank you for listening and watching this episode of Case Files. If you liked what you saw and heard, the best thing you can do is like, comment, and subscribe, and be sure to share this video with your friends and family. Until we meet again, stay safe and never stop learning.